So we're going to be coming back from a week of no UFC with UFC Fight Night Cara France versus Albazi, and it should be a pretty good card. I'm looking forward to it. Both guys at the top are pretty close to a title shot at 125 pounds. There's a lot of debuting fighters and a lot of veterans on this card as well. It should be a really good one. Before we do get into it though, I never really ask for this. If you have watched my channel for a little bit, you will know that I never really ask anyone to subscribe before the video starts, but I'm getting somewhat close to 4,000 subscribers, so I really would appreciate it if you could subscribe if you do enjoy the content that I make. And then on top of that as well, before we get into the picks, I do have my Bet US link there, 125% sign up bonus if you sign up using my link in the description. And then over there is my We Want Picks. You get a 3-day free trial and you get access to absolutely everything that the We Want Picks premium membership offers for 3 days for free, and you can cancel at any time during that 3-day free trial if you don't like what you see. But it should be a pretty good card overall that I'm looking forward to getting into. And now let's get into it. Maxim Grishin versus Philipe Lins. Both guys were assigned to the UFC after having pretty solid runs in the PFL. You know, Philipe Lins, he became a champion for the PFL, and then he went into the UFC and went on a 2-fight losing streak. And then Maxim Grishin as well as another older guy that was signed from the PFL. You know, he actually had a really good win streak going, and a couple of those wins did include wins in the PFL himself in 2019. And what happened there was he was also signed to the UFC after a run in the PFL. Both guys were signed pretty late into their careers, and now they're fighting each other in the UFC. It is a hard fight to pick. I mean, both guys are pretty well-rounded at this point. Philipe Lins in the past, he has been low volume, and his like low volume has let him down, but he really let the hands go in his last fight against OSP, and I'm kind of hoping he lets the hands go against Maxim Grishin, and I am picking Philipe Lins to win this one here. Both guys are somewhat untrustworthy. I actually would probably say that Maxim Grishin is probably the more trustworthy fighter out of the two, but he's almost 39 years old now. You know, he did fight a long time ago, 1 year, 3 months ago against William Knight, and if I do recall correctly, that was the fight which William Knight missed weight by like 10 pounds, I believe. He missed weight by an unbelievable amount, and Grishin went on to get the win. So that was good for Maxim Grishin, but I am going to go Philipe Lins. He's just showed that he's a little bit more aggressive than he was when he first came into the UFC. You know, he had a pretty bad run to start his career after being the PFL champion. You know, now he's kind of come back. He beat Prackniel, which is a pretty good win. Prackniel's a decent striker, and then he did manage to dispatch OSP like that. So I'm going with Philipe Lins. I'm kind of picking by KO. I'm not 100% sold on Lins at the moment, but I do trust that he's going to let the hands go, and I do trust that he's going to find something. I just pushed the wrong button. Luan Lacerda taking on Damon Blackshear in the second fight of the night. I'm going with Luan Lacerda, but it's a pretty tough fight to call. Both guys are primary grapplers. Luan Lacerda, if you guys don't know, trains at Nova Unal. I've actually watched fights of his when I was watching tape on him for his UFC debut. He had Jose Aldo in his corner, which was awesome. I really hoped he was going to have Jose Aldo in his corner for UFC 283, but unfortunately he didn't. But I actually thought as well Luan Lacerda beat Cody Stamann, and if you look at MMA decisions, most people believe that Cody Stamann lost that fight as well. So Luan Lacerda arguably could have beaten Cody Stamann, who's very close to the rankings himself. And Luan Lacerda is not that good at striking, and that whole fight really took place on the feet. I thought Cody Stamann was actually going to get submitted by Luan Lacerda, but Lacerda showed very improved striking in that fight. Now, Damon Blackshear's had a pretty tough run in the UFC so far. You know, he did fight Yusuf Zalal on very, very short notice, fought him to a draw, and then he did get a matchup against Farid Basharat, which was pretty rough because Farid Basharat, he's not Javid Basharat, he's his younger brother, but Farid is also a very good undefeated prospect coming up, and a very similar style to Damon Blackshear, just a little bit better, and that was kind of shown in that fight, but it was a very competitive fight. I do like Luan Lacerda here. I think he's the better grappler. I think they're pretty even on the feet. Lacerda is showing better striking though, now that he's in the UFC, but Lacerda's wrestling is really sketchy, man. You watch this guy's regional career, you know, you watch his Shudo fights, his LFA fights. When he goes for takedowns, he doesn't like follow through with the takedown. Like, you know, like let's say someone's just standing and like you tackle them and they fall backwards. He kind of like goes for his takedown and then he falls backwards himself and ends up in guard all the time. Like his wrestling's pretty bad. He just kind of shoots and then pulls guard and ends up on bottom even though he initiated the takedown. Hopefully that makes sense, but that's what Lacerda does, which is concerning. But I do think his grappling is going to be good enough, and I do think he finds a submission over Damon Blackshear in this one here. Grappler versus grappler. Jinh Frey taking on Elise Reed. I'm going to go with Elise Reed in this one here. She is, in my opinion, the better striker out of the two. And in pure grappling as well, I think Elise Reed probably has a pretty good chance in this fight as well. Elise Reed, she's got that black belt in Taekwondo. I believe she owns the gym which she trains out of as well. So she is quite successful in that front as well. But Jinh Frey, she's a good wrestler, but she's a little bit small for 115 pounds. You know, she fought at atomweight before she made it into the UFC. And obviously the UFC only has women's strawweight as their smallest division. So Jinh Frey's had to fight there. And her striking isn't that good. You know, I actually did think that she beat Vanessa Demopoulos in a striking fight, though we recently just saw Demopoulos get embarrassed by Karolina Kowalkiewicz on the feet. And then she fought Polyana Viana, and Polyana Viana made a read instantly and KO'd Jinh Frey. If you watch that fight, Polyana Viana figures out Jinh Frey easily and then just chases her down and knocks her out. So, yeah, Jinh Frey striking's not that good. She's almost 38 years old now. Elise Reed is 30. She's now in her prime. Reed's kind of been trading wins and losses, but she has been fighting good fighters like Loma Lookboonmee, Melissa Martinez, former kickboxing world champion. She beat her up and beat her. Sam Hughes, you know, Sam Hughes is she's a good fighter. Sam Hughes, she's pretty if you have bad cardio, Sam Hughes will beat you. But yeah, Sam Hughes is just an absolute savage. And she did lose to her. But I'd like Elise Reed in this one here. I think if Jinh Frey wants to win, she's going to have to get takedowns and control Elise Reed. But I don't see Elise Reed kind of getting taken down and controlled by Jinh Frey. I think she wins on the feet. And I think that even in the grappling as well, Reed could probably get her own offensive takedowns and do some grappling. Now we move on to Daniel Santos versus Johnny Munoz Jr. This is a fight that has been rescheduled, actually. I believe these two were meant to fight on a pay-per-view recently, but unfortunately that kind of fell through. I believe Daniel Santos pulled out due to an injury, which is concerning, but I still think Daniel Santos gets it done here. Johnny Munoz Jr. is a very good grappler. I believe he's a black belt in BJJ, and his whole sort of style does revolve around wrestling and grappling. But Daniel Santos is a shootbox Diego Lima guy. And if you know anything about shootbox Diego Lima guys, they are Charles Oliveira clones. They literally are. The shootbox Diego Lima guys all fight the same, man. Like, their sparring sessions must be so fun. Very aggressive Muay Thai, very aggressive BJJ grappling. And it's kind of what Daniel Santos does, and it's kind of what he did in his last fight. Very aggressive, was always walking forward. He was getting smacked up a lot by John Castaneda, but just couldn't get out of there. And John Castaneda gassed himself out trying to take him out. And Santos come back and got the KO, you know, against Julio Arce. It was his first fight in a long time. It was just kind of too much too soon for Daniel Santos, but I think he can get it done over Johnny Munoz Jr. You know, Johnny Munoz Jr., he got KO'd by Tony Gravely, which was a little bit of a concern, because if you watch that shot, it didn't really seem like the 150% of power was really put in there by Gravely, and I'm worried that Daniel Santos is going to land something similar and knock out Johnny Munoz Jr., so I do have Daniel Santos by KO. When it comes to the grappling, Daniel Santos is no joke on the ground as well. I mean, he's trained at shootbox. These guys are well-rounded. These guys are aggressive. These guys are fun to watch. They all fight pretty much the exact same. They literally do. If you see someone from shootbox, you know exactly how they're going to fight. Santos is kind of the embodiment of that. I think Santos gets a knockout over Johnny Munoz Jr. The next one is Andrei Arlovski taking on Dontale Mayes. I've got Andrei Arlovski, but this is like a fight that you should just avoid, man. It's so sketchy. Andrei Arlovski, he seems to kind of get by decisions that maybe he probably shouldn't be getting. Like the Jake Collier fight was pretty close, but Collier probably should have got that. And then the Jared Vanderaa fight as well was pretty close. And then the Carlos Philipe fight was pretty close, but I thought Arlovski did win that fight, to be fair. But Dontale Mayes, the thing about Dontale Mayes, man, I just think he's a little bit like one-dimensional. You know, like all he's got is striking. He's not very good at wrestling, and even then when he does strike, he's got a very interesting striking style, especially for heavyweight, because he's very kick heavy. But he's not just throwing any kicks. He's throwing like jumping kicks. He's throwing like jumping knees. Like he's throwing like sometimes even throws like a spinning attack. Like he's just a very odd striker for heavyweight. He really is, and I don't think it's going to work against Andrei Arlovski, who is so experienced at this point now. I think he's going to know what to do against Dontale Mayes. And this just kind of grinds out a decision, you know? Keep Dontale Mayes' back up against the cage like Augusto Sakai did. Maybe even take him down and control him, because Dontale Mayes, you know, we did see him taken down by Hamdi Abdelwahab, which was a close fight. But it's been overruled due to Hamdi having something in his system that he shouldn't have. But I think Arlovski, you know, he's going to be the crafty veteran in this fight. He's going to be able to come up with a good game plan to beat Dontale Mayes, and I do think he's going to get it done by decision. I'm not that confident in it because Arlovski's 44. If you watch this fight back against Marcos Rogério de Lima, you actually notice that Arlovski gets knocked down very concerningly. Nothing that Marcos Rogerio de Lima threw in that combo ever touched the face of Andrei Arlovski. I don't know what happened. I don't know if Arlovski knocked himself out by hitting his face with his shoulder. Who knows? So Dante Mays probably could potentially knock out Arlovski, but he's 44 years old, man. Former champion, been around for a long time, gets paid a lot of money. I mean, if Andrei Arlovski's still on the contract that is public, Arlovski's getting paid 350k for this fight. So yeah, shout out to Arlovski, you know, chasing that bag. You know, he's been in the UFC for so long, obviously built up that contract over so long, and now he just gets 350k to show on a UFC Apex prelim. I mean, he's doing it right, you know what I mean? Now we move on. This is a short notice replacement fight. John Castaneda versus Muin Gafurov. I didn't get the odds. I should do that right now. That was pretty bad planning by me. I did expect Tapology to have them, but this fight was announced. I actually made a individual video on this event, on this kind of announcement, and I am picking Muin Gafurov to win a decision. I think Muin Gafurov is a very, very good fighter, and I'm just gonna see if I can get any odds for the event right now, and it doesn't look like odds are out on best fight odds for this card, so that's okay. I will worry about that one another time, but I am picking Muin Gafurov. I don't know what the odds are. I believe the majority of people are on Gafurov, so he probably is the favorite, but Muin Gafurov's a very well-rounded fighter. You know, he's got a good wrestling base. I thought he was robbed against Chad Anhaliga personally. I mean, he controlled and took down Chad Anhaliga a lot in that fight, but he come back, you know, he bounced back against a really good fighter, 15-1 here at Souza, knocked him out, and then he knocked out Diego Silva with a spinning back kick for this LFA title. And now he's got the short notice opportunity to fight in the UFC against John Castaneda. And John Castaneda, very well-rounded fighter, good boxer, good wrestler, kind of a similar style to Muin Gafurov in a way, but I think Muin Gafurov on the feet, you know, I think he can land. I think Castaneda can land as well, but I think Gafurov can also offensively wrestle and have good enough wrestling to defend the takedowns of John Castaneda. I think Muin Gafurov would have been ready for something like this as well. You know, he literally vacated his LFA title recently, so we knew that something was up. I thought he was going to be on Dana White's Contender Series, but it looks like he's back. He's in the UFC, and I think Muin Gafurov gets it done. I think he does beat John Castaneda in this matchup here. I think he might even get a KO on the feet like he has recently as well. So it'll be interesting to see how his debut goes, but I am picking Muin Gafurov by decision. Castaneda's a tough dude. He only got finished by Santos because he was gassed out completely, and I think Gafurov wins a decision. I've got another underdog here. I've got Abubakar Nurmagomedov to beat Elizeu Zaleski. Now, I have said it in the past, and I will say it again. I don't believe that Abubakar Nurmagomedov is the best fighter to come out of the Khabib Nurmagomedov camp, but he is a good enough fighter to beat Elizeu Zaleski, in my opinion, as the underdog as well. And the reason why I say that is I've seen Elizeu Zaleski taken down before, and what's Abubakar Nurmagomedov going to do? He's going to try and take Zaleski down. I think he's going to be successful in doing so, and I think he's going to win a decision by just out wrestling Zaleski. You know, Zaleski's going to want to keep this fight on the feet. He's going to have to try and defend the takedowns, and now he's old. He hasn't fought for a while. He last absolutely destroyed Benoit Saint Denis about a year and a half ago, but he's battling injuries since then and all that sort of thing. And you know, Nurmagomedov, he struggled with not being active in the past, but now he's finally active. You know, he took so much time off after he fought Jared Gooden, beat Gaziar Magadziev, and now he's taking on Zaleski 6 months later. You don't normally see this level of activeness from Abubakar Nurmagomedov, and I think he's going to be able to take down and control and beat Elizeu Zaleski by decision. So that is my pick in that fight there. The next one is Guram Kutateladze taking on Jamie Mullarkey, and I do have Guram Kutateladze here. I think he is going to be the better striker in the matchup, and I think that's probably even where Jamie Mullarkey probably wants the fight to be, on the feet, because we have seen Guram really good wrestling and grappling scrambles in his tough fights against Mateusz Gamrot and Amir Ismagulov. You know, we know that Guram is top 15 at level. We don't necessarily know if Jamie Mullarkey is, and in my opinion, I thought he lost to Michael Johnson. I did. But he did recently beat Francisco Prado. That was a fun fight. You know, Francisco Prado took that fight on short notice. A bit of a savage from Argentina, and Jamie Mullarkey managed to win. And one thing I do really like about Jamie Mullarkey is the fact that he listens to his cornerman a lot. Like, when you watch his fights, when he's sitting in the corner and he's talking to his cornerman, he's having conversations with them. They're talking to each other. They're telling each other what's going on. Jamie Mullarkey's responding, and he goes out there and he does what his cornerman tell him to do. So I know that he probably does have a pretty good game plan for this fight, but I am going to go with the massive favorite in Guram Kutateladze. You know, he's just so good, man. Like, you know, you could argue he beat Demir Ismakilov. You could also argue he beat Mateus Gamrot, and they're great fighters. He just has not been active. He's just been dealing with injuries and all that sort of thing. I think if he beats Jenny Mullarkey, we probably see Guram Kutateladze versus, we probably see him take on Arman Sarukian. Honestly, like, no one wants to fight Arman Sarukian, and Guram Kutateladze just fights the guys that no one wants to fight. So that's who I think wins. I think Guram wins. I think he wins a decision. Mullarkey's tough. I don't know if Kutateladze is going to be able to knock him out, so I'm going to go with a decision. But we did see Mullarkey get knocked down by Michael Johnson, so maybe Kutateladze could do something there. Karine Silva is taking on Ketlen Souza. I'm going with Karine Silva here. Ketlen Souza is taking this fight on somewhat short notice. It's been rescheduled from an original fight. I think Karine Silva was meant to fight Priscilla Cachoeira, but Priscilla Cachoeira weighed in at like 136 pounds for a flyweight fight. So yeah, that fight was obviously cancelled, and then Karine Silva's now been rebooked with Ketlen Souza. Only a few weeks apart from that original scheduling with Priscilla Cachoeira, where Cachoeira just missed weight by an absolute long shot. And now she's taking on Ketlen Souza. Ketlen Souza, the LFA champion, or Invicta champion, not an LFA champion. Wrong person, I'm thinking of someone else. But she's also a wrestler and grappler. She's also a grappler, but the thing is with Karine Silva, her grappling is so dominant. You know, the way that she fights, she wrestles, you know, she gets on top and ground and pound. She also submits. She's 15 wins with 15 finishes. You know, you don't see that at women's flyweight ever. And I think we're going to see her get another finish here. She just takes people down. She ground and pounds them out, or she submits them. I think she's going to do that same game plan against Ketlen Souza. She's pretty powerful on the feet as well. You know, she's got good wins too. Like the winner of Poliana Batalio in her debut was good. Kihi Yan was a good prospect out of China, and she just kind of ran through her. Like she's a fantastic fighter. I like Silva to win by finish in this fight against Ketlen Souza. Tim Elliot taking on Victor Altamirano. Tim Elliott's another one of those veterans on the card. You know, you've got Andrei Arlovski, you've got Tim Elliot, Jim Miller, Alex Caceres. I guess you could call Kai Kara France a veteran as well. So many veterans on this card, and I think Tim Elliot does get it done over Victor Altamirano here. I believe it's somewhat short notice for Altamirano. He's stepping in for a different opponent that Tim Elliot was meant to fight. He's meant to fight Alan Nascimento. That would not have been a very good fight for Tim Elliot. But Tim Elliott's now fighting Victor Altamirano. Big step up in competition for Altamirano. You know, he did lose his debut to Carlos Hernandez. I thought he won that fight. I thought I was an island in that opinion, but if you go to MMA decisions, it seems like most people thought that Altamirano did win that fight, but then he bounced back. He beat Daniel Silva, Daniel Lacerda, and then he beat Vinicius Salvador recently in a bit of a war. It was a bit sloppy, but it was a war. It was fun. And now he's taking on Tim Elliot. Massive step up in competition. You know, Tim Elliot, he's a wrestler. He's a top 15 guy. He's been top 15 for a long time. You know, he fought Mighty Mouse back in the day after winning the Ultimate Fighter. But he just hasn't been super active himself. You know, he's older now in his career, 36 years old at men's flyweight. But I think he will be able to turn away the up-and-coming Victor Altamirano in this matchup. I think he wins a decision. You know, he just beat Tagir Ulanbekov by taking down Tagir Ulanbekov. Unfortunately, he's got a little bit of things going on in his personal life, but I don't think that should affect Elliot too much. And I think as well, he was associated with James Krause, wasn't he? So that would be why he's probably not been able to fight for a while. But he's obviously been cleared of, he obviously wasn't doing anything dodgy with those guys. So now he's fighting. He's going to win a decision over Altamirano, in my opinion. Now, Jim Miller is taking on Jared Gordon, another veteran on the card, but I do like Jared Gordon to win this matchup, man. I do think Jared Gordon gets it done, but I'm really worried, man, about him getting KO'd by Bobby Green less than a month ago. Like, that happens, you know? Like, I know it was a clash of heads, it was ruled a no contest, but he was still knocked out. He was still lying there, and he's still knocked out after Bobby Green smashed him up a couple of times on the ground. And you got to worry about that, but one thing that you can remember is Jared Gordon looked so good on the feet against Bobby Green before that happened. He looked a lot better and a lot more improved already since the Paddy Pimblett fight, which I thought he won. But anyway, I thought Jared Gordon beat Paddy Pimblett. In fact, I actually live scored it when I was watching it 30-27, and I could not believe it when Paddy Pimblett got the scorecard. But it doesn't matter. It's in the past now. Jared Gordon is taking on Jim Miller. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. Does the winner of this fight Paddy Pimblett? Because Paddy Pimblett's not going to be ready to fight until December. And Jim Miller's probably going to want to wait around and not fight too often because he's going to want to be on UFC 300. But Jared Gordon, you know, Paddy Pimblett's interested in the rematch. I'm interested in the rematch. You know, what else are you going to do with Paddy Pimblett, you know? So, I don't mind it. And in this matchup, though, Jim Miller, the problem with Jim Miller is he has been knocking out guys recently, which is why that chin sort of problem is scary. Because Jared Gordon, it's not like he's never been KO'd in his career before. He's been KO'd, I believe, 4 times in his career. You know, he's been KO'd. It was a while ago. You know, he got KO'd by the great Charlie Olives, but he got like 2-fight KO loss streak early on in his UFC career as well. Like, it's just worrying, man. We've seen him KO'd before, genuinely KO'd, and then he got KO'd in that no contest to Bobby Green. And now he's fighting Jim Miller, who does have hands. You know, he just beat Donald Cerrone, and he did lose to Alexander Hernandez in a fight you could argue he potentially won. Like, Miller's no joke. Miller's still got it, you know, but I'm going to trust Jared Gordon to keep the fight on the feet. And I think if he keeps the fight on the feet, he should be the better striker. And I think he should be able to beat Jim Miller by decision. But Miller's a savage, man. You know, you could argue he beat Alexander Hernandez still. You know, like he's still doing it. I love Jim Miller. Everyone does. You know, I want to see him at UFC 300. And I'm looking forward to Jim Miller. I mean, fighting at UFC 300. Let's just move on. Alex Caceres taking on Daniel Pineda. I've got Alex Caceres in this fight. I just don't really trust Daniel Pineda all that much. You know, like Daniel Pineda, his cardio is scary. The USADA issues in the past is also pretty scary. You know, like I don't know if you guys remember, but he KO'd Mavlid Khaybulaev in 30 seconds back in 2019, and then he finished a Jeremy Kennedy, but he had a bit of USADA problems, and then he fought in the UFC. More USADA problems. Oh, sorry, there's no contest. Whatever. The point is though, he did have a bunch of USADA issues, and now he's back. You know, and now that he's back, he just beat Kutateladze, and now he's taking on Alex Caceres. But Alex Caceres is also a veteran, he's been around, and Daniel Pineda's cardio is always a problem. You look at this guy's record, and it's incredibly impressive. You know, he's got 28 wins, 28 finishes, just absolutely unreal record. Most of those wins in the first round as well, but that cardio has always plagued Daniel Pineda. If the fight leaves the first round, there's a good chance that his opponent's about to start taking over. And I think that's what happens. I think Alex Caceres finishes Daniel Pineda in the third round by knockout, or potentially it does go the distance. But if Daniel Pineda wins, he's going to have to catch Alex Caceres early, and I just can't see that happening. You know, Alex Caceres, at this point in his career, has been in the UFC for so long. He's been in the UFC for so long, since like the Ultimate Fight, what was it, like season 8? Season 12. He's since 2010. He's been fighting in the UFC. That's absolutely unreal. And Alex Caceres, you know, borderline ranked guy. He keeps popping in and out of that number 15 ranking spot. And Daniel Pineda, you know, he just got the win over Kutateladze, who, you know, isn't Alex Caceres level in my opinion at all. So I'm going to go with Alex Caceres here. I think he gets it done. And I think he gets it done with third round finish. You know, I think he's going to work the body. You know, he's a crafty striker, very, very interesting sort of style. Pineda's probably going to look for takedowns. He's going to be throwing his overhand rights and all that sort of thing. Leg kicks as well are key for Pineda as well. Pineda does throw a lot of leg kicks, very heavy leg kicks. But I think Caceres is going to be crafty, man. Absolutely incredible KO over Julian Erosa recently. We just read Julian Erosa so well. One of the best KOs of the year so far, in my opinion. Just not really by the spectacle of it, just the way that it was so technical and so well set up. Very, very good win for Caceres there, and I think he's going to be able to replicate something like that in the third round when Pineda has tired himself, when Pineda has gassed himself out trying to finish Caceres, and I think that's kind of what happens. I think we get a third round finish. The next one is Kai Kara-France taking on Amir Albazi in the main event, and I've got Kai Kara-France. Amir Albazi, you know, he's been looking really good recently, but the problem with Amir Albazi is not fought anybody ranked, man. Like, he just beat Francisco Figueiredo in 2022, but Francisco Figueiredo just got cut from the UFC. So that's not even like a UFC level win. And then Alessandro Costa fought him on very short notice, and Alessandro Costa arguably won the first round against Amir Albazi in that fight, you know. And Alessandro Costa, like, he made Amir Albazi striking not look that good, right? And just to surprise you guys as well, you could say, oh, well, Alessandro Costa, you know, he's a striker. No, he's not. Alessandro Costa is a grappler, and he came in there and he made Amir Albazi not look that good on the feet. And you know, Kai Kara-France is just a significantly better striker than Amir Albazi. If Kai Kara-France fought Alessandro Costa on 5 days' notice, Kara-France would knock him out in the first round. You know, I don't think anyone can argue that at all. And it took 3 rounds for Amir Albazi to find it against Alessandro Costa. And even then, it was kind of just due to Costa gassing out, because he took that fight on like 5 days' notice, something absolutely insane. And Yeah, now Kai Kara France is fighting Amir Albazi. Absolutely huge step up in competition for Albazi. You know, this guy's not been fighting often, and he's not been fighting that good guys. You know, Gordon, borderline UFC level. Zalga Shimagilov, what, like 1-5 in the UFC now? Francisco Figueiredo got cut after that fight. Alessandro Costa made his debut on 5 days' notice. Like, it's just sketchy, man. And then Kai Kara France is out here just fighting much better levels of competition. Is he beating most of these guys that he's fighting? Not necessarily. Like, he did lose to Brandon Royval in a war. He did lose to Brandon Moreno in a championship fight, like the champion Moreno, who just fought Figueiredo. And in that fight, one of the judges, I don't know how, but this is just to give a testament to how close the fight was. One of the judges going into the third round had it 2-0 Kai Kara France. I personally had it 2-0 Brandon Moreno, but I thought that Kai Kara France was starting to look a lot better in the third round, and he's going to start to take over before he did get KO'd. And one judge had it 1-1. So I can see the 1-1. I don't see the 2-0 Kai Kara France at all. But it was a close fight, very close fight with Brandon Moreno. And Kai Kara France on one judge's scorecard was ahead. And, you know, there's just such a step up in competition for Amir Albazi now, especially in the striking department. And a lot of people are saying, well, Amir Albazi's got that wrestling. He's going to take down Kai Kara France. Well, maybe, but you guys have got to consider Kai Kara France is the best defensive grappler at 125 pounds, and I don't think it's that close. The way that he was able to defend the takedowns against Askar Askarov, I picked Kai Kara France to beat Askar Askarov as well in that matchup. The way that he was able to defend the takedowns against Askar Askarov couldn't really get anything going in the first rounds. He couldn't get anything going in the second round. He couldn't get anything going in the third round. Kai Kara France beat him up in the second and third rounds to win that fight. And then obviously against Cody Garbrandt just knocked him out, but you know, that's Garbrandt. And then Bontarin was controlling him, trying to outgrapple him for the whole round. Kai Kara France gets up, 10 seconds to go and just knocks him out, you know, and it's just the best defensive grappling, defensive wrestling at 125, just incredible takedown defense and incredible grappling defense. I don't see Amir Albazi, unless he's made rapid improvements, being able to do that to Kai Kara France, because his takedown defense is so good and his striking is just so much better. So I've got Kai Kara France to win this fight. I think he might go 5 rounds. I think he might go to decision or a late KO finish. So give me Kai Kara France to win at this matchup. And that's everything for that video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the picks. Let me know what you think in the comments. As I said at the start, if you did like the video, please do like the video and please do subscribe for more. And I will see you guys in the next one.